Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's your boy Mike Gomes. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into it, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and more importantly, hit the link in the description or just go to joinblueprintrei.com. Now, what this is going to do, this is going to give you access to the free private Facebook group. Now, the free private Facebook group is starting to boom. It's starting to really get active. We're doing live Zooms in there. We're chopping it up with each other. I'm actually hosting a live Zoom in there on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. I'm going to be breaking down how we get somebody their first deal. Now, we have one of the community members ask, hey, I need help getting my first deal this quarter. And I'm like, let's just hop on a Zoom and give you the blueprint on how we can get you your first deal. So if you want to get into that Zoom, hit the link in the description or just go to joinblueprintrei.com to get in the free private Facebook group. But today we're going to go over this wholesale deal. And what a wholesale is, it's pretty much when you buy a house, pretty much do nothing to it, and then immediately resell it, okay? So let's get into this on the whiteboard. This deal gave us a freaking major headache, and we actually should have made way more money on it, and we shouldn't have done a wholesale, but let's get into it. 119 Newton Street in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Listen, this deal was a headache, and I'm glad that it's done. Learned a lot and we made some money, but this deal was a freaking headache. Now, the way that we got this deal was through a cold call. A virtual assistant cold called this person literally 2 years ago. I went on an appointment after she generated the lead 2 years ago, okay? And then she just wasn't ready to sell the property. The seller wasn't ready. So we put the lead in a follow-up. So my virtual assistant kept following up for 2 years, month after month after month. Finally, the seller said that she wanted to sell her property at about 4 months ago. And my virtual assistant closed the deal. She's the one that got the contract signed. That's how badass my VAs are. My VAs are literally getting contracts signed. If my VAs can get contracts signed, y'all should be getting contracts signed. If you need help getting contracts signed, hit the link in the description so that you can get in that free private Facebook group so we can get your sales skills up. But anyways, so my VA gets this thing under contract at $33,000. Can you imagine that in Massachusetts, a deal at $33,000? It's single family, doesn't even make sense. Crazy. That's how badass she is. But anyways, we get this property under contract at $33,000. And what we thought that we were going to do was assign the deal. So we're like, dang, that's a really good number. However, the property was in the worst place possible. It was one of the baddest areas of Massachusetts alone. A very, very bad area. So we had a tough time finding a buyer. We're contacting everybody. We're contacting realtors we know. We're contacting dispo wholesalers, all the buyers that we know in the area. Nobody wants this deal because it's in such a bad area. So we get to 14 days until we're about to close and we still do not have a buyer. And I'm like, listen, we have this contract at $33,000. I'm not just going to let this thing go. I'm not just going to back out. We're going to perform on this thing. So we went ahead and we raised private money in order to buy the deal. And we're like, hey, let's just buy the deal and immediately resell it. We'll put it on the MLS and we'll get some more eyeballs. We'll clean it up a little bit. Then we'll just put it on the MLS and get some more eyeballs on it. And hopefully we find a buyer at a much higher number than $33,000. That was the plan. Worst case scenario, we ended up just putting a little bit of love into the property and throwing a Section 8 renter in there, and we would have cash flowed actually a lot of money. And so we had multiple exit strategies on this deal. But $33,000 is a killer deal. So I'm like, we're closing on this thing regardless. So we close on this thing. But let's take a step back. When you close on a property, you come into a lot of fees with your attorneys to close on it, with the lender, the private lender who lent us the money. That's going to cost a lot of interest. It's expensive to buy a house. So you're much better off just assigning the deal. So here's what happened. About 2 days before we were going to close on it, I contacted a realtor because I see a property that was listed just recently right down the street. And I'm like, hey, I have this property that I'm buying in 2 days. Do you have a buyer for it? I just want to get this thing off. And she's like, yeah, give me a couple of weeks and I'll find a buyer for you. So we close on the thing and I contact the realtor again, maybe a week later after we close. And she's like, hey, I have an off market buyer who I just talked to. They want to buy the deal. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is a cash buyer. Let's just get this thing done. Stinks. Learning lesson. I wish I just contacted this realtor. We should have been more hungrier on the dispo side of things. We should have known this realtor before we even closed on it. Then we wouldn't have had to go through the process of buying it and all the fees and everything like that. But at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason, and a lot of good came out of it. A lot of learning lessons and a relationship with another private money lender that I'm actually doing another deal with. So like a lot of good stuff came out of it. We didn't make as much money as we would have made if we just wholesaled the deal. But, I'm always like, hey, what lessons did I learn and what relationships did I build? And those two in this deal is actually worth much more money than we would have made if we just assigned the deal. So I'm not mad about it. But anyways, we have this buyer who comes in at $79,000 to start. So they were going to purchase it at $79,000. That was their initial offer. Okay. And then they wanted a price reduction down to $72,000. $72,000. So we're ready to move forward at 72 grand. And here's why I'm saying this property was a headache. When we were about to close at $72,000, okay, we ended up finding out that there was a squatter living in the house. And here's how we found out. The buyer has a final walkthrough. So whenever a buyer is about to buy a house, they have the opportunity for a final walkthrough. So this is like one day before we are going to close, the buyer goes there to check out the property and do their final walkthrough. Come to find out, there is a squatter who broke into the house, like a homeless person who broke into the house and was living in there, and it almost killed the deal. Like everybody was freaking out. Like shit, the buyer's like, no, I'm not performing on this thing unless you guys give me a $10,000 discount and da 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 da. It was like, I'm like, oh my gosh, we owe this private money guy in like freaking a month. We just got to get this property off our hands. We can't really afford to not close on this thing. So we ended up knocking this price down to 70K. So we ended up selling the property to the buyer at $70,000 after all the fees. Watch this though. I know I said the relationships and the learning lessons were worth way more, which they are 100%. But here's how much money we could have made if we just assigned it at 70,000 bucks. We would have made 37K if we just assigned it at 70K without having to deal with any of the fees that came up. But with all the fees and everything, we literally only profited $14,000. That was our net profit on the deal. After everything, after doing some rehab, after fees, after literally everything, all the interest, all the fees, all the attorney costs, $14,000. So if we do the math here, technically we missed out on like $23,000. I'm not going to say we lost $23,000. We missed out on $23,000, but we built relationships, we had learning lessons, and that's what this real estate thing is all about. If you want to learn how to do deals just like the one on the whiteboard, hit the link in the description or go to joinblueprintrei.com so I can teach y'all how to close deals like my VA closed this deal. I'm going to see y'all on Facebook. Peace out.